Hi, and welcome to a Small Medium at Large podcast. I'm your host, Gail Heisen, bringing you intimate interviews beyond normal boundaries. Today we have a very special returning guest, Taoist master San Quinn, who is a profound healer with over 30 years' experiences teaching and guiding people to open up to their true potential as a human being, as a light being, as just being. San Quinn is an ordained priest and 66th generation lineage holder and 126th generation lineage holder of Taoism. San is a Taoist master of Qigong and Nigong, and he is a prolific channel and healer who has built a reputation for direct access to the spirit realm. He is grateful every day to his teachers, the three pure ones, and the Tao for allowing him to witness miracles. San Quinn works with people all over the world, showing them that the impossible is possible. San is the host of Consciousness of the Way 126 podcast, and he is the author of three books: Tao Te Ching, Ancient Practice of Synchronicity, and today we will be talking about San's newly released book, Immortality Crystalized in the Material. Let's welcome San Quinn here today. Hi.
Oh, my beautiful friend, I'm just so grateful to be breathing you in. Thank you so much for
Well,
being
it's
you.
it's wonderful to be here. And for our guests that don't know, San was on our show over a year ago, and my husband David and I had the pleasure of visiting him and his wife and his beautiful six children at their home in Nevada. And we had a wonderful time and had delicious muffins. And we really, really enjoyed the visit. And we're looking forward to them coming out west and
Mm,
visiting us.
can't wait.
I also have to mention one other thing. I had the honor of sitting in San's temple, and the downstairs temple was incredibly overwhelming with unbelievable statues of ancient pieces. But when he took me upstairs to his second temple, I had a very profound experience there looking at these three deities, I think they were. I don't know who they are. You could tell us after maybe,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I felt like I was having a conversation with these statues that felt alive. And I felt like I owed them some answers or something. Like I felt like I had to tell them, okay, I will continue on my spiritual path. I'll keep following what I'm doing. I'm trying my best. Yes, I'll report back to you and I won't fail you. And I felt they're present for like months. I was feeling them. And now I feel like I can't visualize them again. And I want to see them again. And I just wanted to know how much that meant to me. So I really love that. And I don't know who the deities were, but I know who you know I'm talking about, that with the three in the front there.
Mhm.
And it was wonderful. So it's a great thing to have this podcast and actually get to meet guests that are on the show. So I'm just letting our listeners know that anything can happen from the impossible to the possible.
That's beautiful. Yeah, the three pure ones are the ones that you're talking about: supreme purity, jet purity, and highest purity. And of course, within that whole altar, there was the eight immortals. We too, who is a guardian with the nine dragons that basically proceed as a field of love that emanates from the sacred space. And then, of course, there are the four heavenly kings. They work with the directions of the energy, and then other specific spirits from Guang Gong to Kuan Yin to Li Gong and Feng Bo. These are both thunder gods that are teaching and moving the energy to help cultivate. I mean, you and I talking about this, we're as high as a kite right now, just oscillating in the energy, just moving around.
I I have to bring myself back down to earth to read my questions for you. I'm just so happy to have you here today. So, in your book, you write the path, this is your quote, the path of the Taoist alchemist is a journey of the eternal transformation where poetry crystallizes the ethereal into the material. Why did you decide to write this book with poems, and was it something you channeled as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, the deep nature of any Taoist alchemist comes back to the initial initiation of the Yellow Emperor and his overseeing of cultivation with the Jade Emperor as his mentor and his relationship with the universe. So the universe basically is the teacher. And so through that teaching, one of the most profound ways to alchemize in this present moment is taking the spoken word and actualizing it and altering the material. And what's really potent about what we refer to as the Rhapsody is how you take that, and through that you literally create phases of alchemical process. The deeper you speak, the more it's captivated with the words. It is just a substance of magic that lays down in the grid, and then you're off to the races. You create. So poetry is an entry level to that. It's so important, and it's part of the ancient teaching.
And was this book your first one where you published poems in it, or had you had that in the others as well?
Yeah, no, that was really the first time that I published the poems, and I that same week I have four, or I actually finished 5 books that week, but I've
Oh,
only published one. And so
okay.
I've got 4 other ones already, which is Rhapsody, Crystallized in the Material. That's over 300 poems. And then what we refer to as Whispers, Crystallized in the Material, which is a deep dive into basically the dialogue to the monologue, an A to Z on channeling. And then finally, another book, 2 other books is Primordial Mother, which is about the sacred breath and the relationship that goes beyond the body and into breathing into consciousness. And that's how the alchemy really works. And so really capturing that starts with the breath and ends with the breath. And you codify that into this space. And now you can play with the substance. It's like we're talking about it now. The resonance is raised and there is a substance. As our parapsychologist friends would refer to this as psychokinesis, some level of pulpability where what is going on here? I can't explain it, but it is super dense. There is energy emanating from this conversation. This is the starting or the ignition of where the magic starts.
Well, I understand that a different way than I have before after you just explained that.
Yeah.
I, I, I actually have a whole list of questions here about the breath.
Yeah.
So, and Rhapsody. So, if you don't mind, if we repeat things as I go, as we
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
along, if
Absolutely.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, can you explain what the Rhapsody, the power of poetry and ancient magic means? And what are the mystical tools of Rhapsody? Are we talking about spells or
Oh,
incantations? Or so that would be my three-part question
yeah.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
breathing,
Yeah.
about Rhapsody, and we'll get to breath in a
Yeah,
few more
yeah,
questions.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's always the fact. Like when you're building a house, you look at it within the logical finite mind as a system. You lay down a foundation. You create something that is solid to build your house on. This is very much part of the alchemical process. You first must ignite the divinity within the initiate, and so there's an alchemical process that takes place from the sun, which is the upper dantian, the earth is the middle dantian, and the lower dantian is the merging of the sun and the earth, that you activate the primordial mother, which is the ultimate absolute and has dominion over everything within this material state. So if we were to go back to the metaphysics of Tao, we start with the highest point, which is the mother, the primordial mother, which is the void that animates the consciousness. Consciousness animates the spirit. Spirit animates the energy. Energy animates the body. And for an alchemist and a Taoist alchemist, between the spirit and consciousness are 4 levels of evolution that come from alchemical process. So in its entirety, there's a 9-phase level where you are constantly creating. You want to take attention and intention merge them together, and that's where you actualize your spirit within the material state. This is real immortality crystallized in the material. You are now having the ability to access the tapestry of this realm, which some people would call a dimension or whatnot. And this, it's so substantive that you are able to reach out and touch someone. Just like we're talking right now, when I move my hands and Gail and I are moving with the energy, we feel it's substance. It's what we call this substance, the tangibility of it. You can feel it right now. It's
Yes.
being created just from the resonance that we have cultivated. And specifically for a Taoist alchemist, as you cultivate that, you merge from the energy which is formed this distorted reality that we are in. These are just different distortions of energy potential. And so in this material state, we refer to, some people might call it 3D or a dimension, whatever you want to refer to it at, we refer to it as the material state. So energy oversees the creation of all these things. Everything has energy potential, which is what we refer to as the symbiosis between yin and yang. That's a dance from the stream of one, you create two. And many of your listeners would be familiar with dualism, non-dualist, non-centric, centric sort of state, where you are becoming more aware of these gradients and phases of reality. And when you get to the center point, which we refer to as the mother, which is a constant stream, this is this magnetic stream that goes from the animation of the mother to consciousness, consciousness to spirit, spirit to energy, energy to the body. Once you actualize the realization you are all things, all of a sudden now magical, mystical, profound, supernatural, paranormal things are taking place, because you're not being met with the distortion of a thought, feeling, and emotion, which are part of the emanation of the body. And so most people tend to bypass the foundational building, and they go straight to, I am Brahman, I am cosmic consciousness, I am the sum of all things. And what I find is I get a lot of students that end up on my doorstep that have actualized and realized that. And because they're not able to hold the container from a physicality perspective, as the avatar has to be able to regulate this in this material state, they start, their superpowers diminish. So at one point they were like, I was thinking and people would be healing and all this crazy magical stuff. And then they start losing one superpower after another because they didn't pour the foundation of the body's actualizing. So, you know, from a Hindu perspective, you'd be familiar with chakras. They didn't actualize the transpersonal point between the earth and the first root chakra. And furthermore, any of the body-bound chakras that hold and house the regulation of this system. This avatar is being regulated by these. If you don't regulate them, you're basically going to float away in the wind when the wind blows. You become very fragile. You're not feeling into things. As a tactile experience that takes place. And so most people bypass that. I want to be at the top. I've ascended to the highest level of awareness, and that's fantastic. But if you can't hold, the avatar can't hold it, then the experience starts to diminish, and you end up being this little transmitter in the corner of the room, just pumping out silence that is referred to someone's mystical experience, but they can't really explain it. And so many of my students end up there. They have the profound actualization, but then they can't hold the tune. It's a tune. It's a harmonic tune that has energy potential, that is vibratory, frequential, and holds that resonance. You and I are able to hold the resonance. That's how we can actualize things in this material state. Does that make sense, or did I confuse you?
Yes, we're talking about, I'm thinking we're discussing frequencies here.
Yeah.
And the level of frequencies and how much you can take and how much you can't take. And what can go through. I've often noticed when I've seen a lot of mediums that they tend often to be heavier, on the heavier weighted side, instead of being thin, tiny, little thin spindles, myself included, on the, not the spindle side, but on the overweight side. And I've often felt that it had something to do with being able to handle so much of this frequency or energy you're talking about so that the person doesn't blow away in the wind. And that part of it becomes a physical manifestation of more weight in the body to just hold the body there to be able to contain all the other stuff that they're dealing with.
Oh, you make a very good point, because when we look at it, yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find that center point, the vesica. Once you recognize there is a center point, once you move through it, you actually realize from a center point there is nothing and everything at the same time. And then you become actualized. So you now are the fabric of reality, which is a point of no return that an alchemist will go through, where you detach and attaches all things. So instead of sitting there or conjuring your relationship with the spirit world, you are the animation, you are the mother. That means you animate the spirit world, you animate the consciousness. So if a thought is created, it actualizes in this material state, which is where most people tend to believe that they have to pass a threshold or a veil to actually obtain that ability, instead of here. And so it's in a far distant world away from me. I love astral projection. I love going out of my body. I love all these things, but I can't actually perform any of these magical tricks in the material state. That just doesn't, that's not possible, which is an absolute falsehood and a lie. And you and I are living, breathing emanations of such. And so when you bring that up, it's a great thing, because what happens is most clairvoyants, mediums, healers, channelers that I come across, they get too inverted. They draw in too much of that, and then it becomes a transitory state that mutates into a certain dysmorphia of the physical body. And once you regulate that, it starts to transform again. So all of a sudden, something where, yes, they're extremely heavy, but they're also not meeting the other aspect. You've always met the other aspect. You have a very similar motto that I have. I'll try anything once. And so many people identify with, I am a medium, I am a healer, I am a psychic, I am a whatever you want to call yourself. With that is a cautionary tale that comes with being absorbed into one facet, not every facet of the diamond. And when you do that, there can be implications of diminished return, because with that you have the thought, feelings, and emotions are still dictating your outcome, even though you have a stream of consciousness and you're sharing people this insight, this clairvoyance, mediumship, healing for your own sacred space. You're not meeting that, and so you become corrupted with the idea that fear is real, that the emotions are real. And when you do that, you're subject to mortality. So when we talk about immortality, you are crystallizing it as such. You are the whole stream, from beginning to end and end to beginning, from creation is completion and rebirth, the trilogy of trinities. And that happens for a Taoist. That's why we refer to that as the Great Bellows, where everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. And you have a choice to be in anything at once, as you are all things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I shouldn't have bothered writing so many questions because you keep answering them before I ask them. One of my questions was, what is the Great Bellows? And you explain that. So we won't need to go there now. So we were talking about the primordial mother and the pulse. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that? And when you're saying primordial mother, what are you saying? Are you meaning one mother of all, or each individual? What does this mean?
Well, right. I love that. Well, everything is universal, right? We all have a baseline that we are subject to our own absolute. This will always be the case. Your absolute truth is your absolute truth. Is it mine? Maybe, could be, but it's definitely yours. And that then starts to create iterations of what you are being transmuted as. So you'll constantly, like a Russian doll, you pull the thing out and there's another one, and then you pull it and there's just one after the other. And you're like, oh my goodness, as you recognize the self-actualization, that that becomes a commodity that goes beyond the mind. The intellect is thrown away. The finite mind is operating in concert with the intuitive. So once you unlock that superpower, your intellect is now on steroids. So no longer are you subject to diminished returns in the human condition aspect. You are absorbed and contracted and expanded as one. And so the primordial mother for a Taoist is what people would refer to as the void. And so from that void, when she inhales, she creates yang, which is the seed within the womb of creation that branches out and creates the cosmos. And then within Taoism, from that cosmos is the emanated, what we call dialogue to the monologue. So all my teachers are dialogues that I have with the mother, which is a monologue. So they're like the concierge or the ambassadors to that information, and they give it to me, and that's the one stream that takes place. Does that make sense?
So we're saying like the primordial mother is the universe, or
well, the creator of the universe, creator of consciousness, and the consciousness creates the universe, but she is the puppeteer or the animation to everything. So from that, when people, like, for example, when people go, oh, I'm starting out and I can't see anything, I'm complete darkness, you're already there. What do you mean? You already have arrived. And they're like, but I can't see anything. Someone told me that there's big colors and there's lions and sparkling unicorns and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, you have literally arrived instantly. There's complete darkness. Now, that is the tapestry of your backdrop. Now, feel into it. It's not a thought. If you're thinking it, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you are feeling. And then it becomes actualized. And so the alchemy will build on itself. So it's so palpable, it's so tangible. It's just like you and I are talking right now. I move my hands, you feel the wave of energy through your body. It's happening now. We are experiencing, this is what I refer to as the Pepsi challenge. I'll get down with anything. I'll take the Pepsi taste test with anyone, and it's happening now, because it doesn't have to be a conjured event. These are all subsections of your own experience that may or may not eventuate into what you want it to be, because you have certain blocks that need to be dissolved. And it doesn't come from a thought processes. You know, Gail is one of my dear friends that is the most potent when it comes to this resonance. And the humility is beyond the word. She just goes, yeah, I don't think I could do it. And then she literally falls into the energy, and she's doing whatever someone has spent a lifetime attempting to craft. And it just happens now, because that's just, and that, I think our motto is equally infectious for many people. They should listen to this. Accept everything at face value, and we'll try everything once. And all of a sudden, it just materializes.
That's exactly what you explained it perfectly. That's how it, and I don't, and then I always feel like, well, but I didn't take the class, you know?
Right. And that's part of your remembrance and who you are. And you're living that out as a reincarnation of self. And you're just another variable, another flavor of your own ice cream from your Willy Wonka chocolate factory. You've just got a different flavor that's just come out of the lineup. And that's what happens. It gets exciting. We want to take a scoop of everything. We want to taste the rainbow.
So I'm understanding then, when you're channeling and you're connecting then to your three
pure ones. Yeah.
The three pure ones, they're giving you information that you're able to hear, but it's not really from them, it's from the primordial mother. And that's where and so that's being filtered down, whether it's through the three
pure ones
or three wise men or three or whatever. That's where the origination is.
Yeah.
And some people might try to call that a god or a one universe, or but we're referring to this here as the primordial mother. I like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said I like that name, and the pulse is what we're saying is
Is
the frequency or the energy that's coming through that and filtering down through teachers, through other teachers.
right, right. So I mean, I don't want to interrupt you, but yeah, it's like the animation is the mother, and she
Yes.
animates consciousness. Consciousness animates the spirit. Spirit animates the energy. Energy animates the body. What is a constant is your eternal immortal self. Once revealed, it is a pulse of magnetism from a dielectric experience at the highest point. You're magnetic. And
Yes.
so everything that is impermanent within the energy is iterations or flare-ups of a wave that will have a crescendo and then collapse back into itself. Whereas once you reveal your spirit, your true self, you are permanent, you are eternal, you are immortal forever, forever. That magnetism then is actualized in this space. You can then use it to craft magic, manifestation, magic healing. Furthermore, that's where you get down with the get down is what I refer to. So that is a constant. Everything else is transitory and impermanent. And so when people think about the body and the energy between the energy and the body, these are distorted variables of yin and yang. They are not a constant, whereas you eternally are a constant. You can never be destroyed or created. You are whole. But there's normally a process to bring this out, to actualize it. And it's just like chipping away at this construct that you've been perceived as independent of self. I always tell people, as the present moment, which is the future and the past culminated together, and I don't even think there is a present moment or future or past, it's just happening. And what happens is when you are there, all of a sudden, your participation is not required to witness the healing. You know, I would never erase my personality. I like chocolate bonbons, driving my side by side in the desert 100 miles an hour. And I still, unfortunately, subscribe to Netflix. That's my personality, right? But that has nothing to do with that resonance that you and I put that precedes us. Where you know, you've experienced this 1,000 times. I have it all the time, whether I'm having a podcast or I'm talking to someone. They're like, oh my goodness, what is all this energy? What is going on here? What? Because we are conditioned into recognizing self as everything and nothing. And through our own practices, through our own remembrance, we're holding this note. And wherever we go, that note will help others remember who they are. And generally, in a dualistic perspective, you're going to have two outcomes. You're going to be gravitated to us with love, or you're going to believe we're the worst thing that ever happened to you, because all of this stuff is raising to the top like a turd in a bowl. You are just like, you can't avoid it. It's there. And it's got nothing to do with us projecting anything other than holding that note that happens to be the resonance of perfection. And all it is us in our default mode, which is servitude and selflessness.
So I'm thinking of getting a hit on what you're describing is maybe the place, or not the place, or the frequency of death. Like, it sounds like, because I keep pondering this thing about reincarnation and life after death, and whether you come back into another body, into another family, so you see the same ones again, or whether you wait many generations before you return, or what exactly happens. But I'm beginning to feel like maybe none of that is really what's important. What's important is what you're saying, is that reaching that place where that, what did you call it? That that place inside the self.
Yeah, the pulse, the permanence.
Yes,
And
that
you
it,
are
you
eternally immortal. Yeah.
yes, and then you don't, then you're not reincarnated and you're not dead, because you've always been. And that's a very that's a, I can't visualize it because I think it's invisible. And I thought of it as consciousness, but I think what you're talking about is more than just
Well,
that.
yeah. I mean, that's, you are the mother. When you recognize that you are the mother, which is different phases from the animation of everything, the creation of everything, down to consciousness and spirit and energy, and then the body, you have complete imperium dominion over all that space because it's your creation.
Mhm.
And so that stream is oneness, is you are it. But there's a conditioning to get to that point where, just like you are conditioning yourself for specific projects outside of this conversation, there's a development. You entered into that resonance, and your superpower is, I am a tuning fork that replicates instant resonance. So you went to specific projects that you're doing. All you did was go, yeah, hang on, ding. You hit your tuning fork and went, oh, there it is. That's what you do, and you're like,
I
you
don't know
are
how I
it.
do that, but that is sort of what it feels like.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what when we recognize our true self, we are whole. There's nothing deficient about us. And so all that other stuff that's emanated from the body is a transitory wave. And with that, you will have something that'll have a crescendo. It'll have a peak, and then it will collapse back into itself. Whereas the permanence is you. And so all that other stuff is distorted. Once you recognize that, all of a sudden you access everything, and you're like, holy moly. Now, miracles take place that thought were not possible. And then we have gradients of what we call, clear sense development, other variables, psychokinesis, pyrokinesis, telekinesis. All these types of things are absolutely within your arm's reach, because they're just different iterations of yourself. And you just have to hold the resonance to remember them. So that's where the conditioning comes in. You're just an enigma. You're like a unicorn flying backwards, fighting rainbows, because this is how everyone attempts to condition themselves to that point, but they don't really understand how to. That's why the method within Taoist alchemy is so powerful, because it gives you a system. And you're like, okay, if I follow this, it becomes actualized. It becomes embodied. So then you have that power. You, as the most powerful shaman and healer, you do that without anything. Just walking and go, oh yeah, I remember that. Ding. Oh, there we go. It's all over again. And I appreciate that. I have had experiences that would follow in the line of your experience. And what I did was, I needed method. That's where my teacher came to me decades ago, and I started channeling him. And then he said, yes, you are remembering who you are, but now let's have you give people methods, and we'll show them to you, and then you can teach people how to do that also, that may not have literally had an overnight success story of highly ascended and transcended states merged as one and alchemized. That's not always the case for everyone that walks in this path, and that's completely okay. But if they're in that tune and that alignment with what you're sharing, they can also be given the guidance to remember themselves through these methods. And that's what drew me to what I teach today and have for many decades, because you can actually create a substance and a tangible progression that you can lean on and return to and get results, repeatable results.
And those teachings of the Tao, that's thousands of years old, or
yeah, hundreds, millions. I mean, there's no real there's no limit. On a biological timeline for human history, we have evidence of 6,000 BC. Pictographs and pictographs and oracle bone reading, which were the original tools that my teacher, the Yellow Emperor, would use to transcribe his experiences. And so that goes in the Taoist canons that.
So I was wondering if we could take a little break from my question and see whether, I don't know which one's available to you at the touch of your thing, but there was the Dawn of the Soul poem.
Let me. I printed one copy. This one copy, because it's full color. A lot of people are like, I like the digital, but I want a hard copy. I said, I'm working on it. This one copy cost me $380.
Well, if it has the color, all those beautiful cover images.
Yeah.
And most people, I'm from the old school. I do love holding a book in my hand. And I would love send me a photo of the cover, because I can't get it off of the one you sent me.
Yeah, no, I'll send you.
I'll have it in our show.
Yeah.
but that was a question I did have at the end, which
Yeah,
we'll ask about.
guys, I'm working on it. I'm a little verklempt. It's hard out here getting it all together now. But you know,
I'm still
the
trying to get my one book finished, and I think it's an 8-part miniseries for Netflix because it's just such a crazy story that you can't believe it. I think it'd be better to watch it. But I think reciting some of your poetry would just be beautiful to
yeah,
hear,
yeah.
and also for the listeners
Mhm.
that if you were to read the book, you'll find that there are other poems there about the soul.
Yeah, let
I
me
just thought they were
well, you
just
see
lovely.
the thing is
Page 70 is the Trail of the
page
Soul,
70. All right.
but the
Um,
Dawn of the Soul came
yeah,
before that.
yeah, let me get it. My mother was like watching me like put this out, channel this, and her eyes just get wider and wider because when I was on this journey and you know, Latsu has always been deep into the Rhapsody. Out of nowhere, by just mentioning poetry, Rumi decided to hang out with me for a few days. It's like this stuff makes me look like an amateur, and I'm like,
Oh,
you know, it's like a different level of emanation. You know, it's so crazy how it just flows, and that's part of that pulse. Is like there's no need for anything, and so when I create poetry that is really coming from Latsu, coming from the mother, it's literally how do you put these things together? It's like insanity. Like if you had to sit down and think about this, it wouldn't happen, but it just flows straight out of me. Let me. Where is it?
that's
Hang on. Is that it? Trail of the Soul. Where is it? Trying to get the pages. For some reason it didn't. Here we go. Um, the Song of My Soul. Was it later? Hang on. Let me. That's
Trail
the
of the Soul I had on page 70.
okay. Oh, hang on. Walk of the Eternal. Where is it?
And
Come on. Oasis
Life of
of the Eternal.
the Dawn of the Soul would be
Yeah.
before Trail of the Soul.
Okay, so it's at the beginning. For some reason, this book doesn't print out the page numbers.
Oh,
It's like, okay. So that'll come in handy. Let me
well,
see.
whichever one you can come up with
Yeah,
is
yeah.
good. I'm trying to find it on my.
Yeah, yeah. Let me get the Dance of the Infinite.
Oh, here it is. Important. Here we are.
There we
Okay,
go.
got it.
Hang on. Which page have you got? Trail of the Soul. Is that the one you were looking for, or you wanted
Yeah,
Dawn
I
of the
think
Soul? Trail of the
I was
Soul or
looking for
Dawn
the
of the Soul?
Dawn of the Soul,
Okay,
but
that must be the. Hang on, I'll get it. It
okay.
should be. Each chapter has the poetry in it. Song of My Soul. No.
Oh,
Dawn
that's good. Any two.
Okay, let me
And
start with
all,
the song of my soul.
yes.
Okay, Song of My Soul. Sound of my soul, a whisper, a call, the essence of the mother, drawn to the height that soars beyond the eagle, reaching the stars, a celestial arc, and back again to the bottom of my soul. Realized this beauty captured in the hand of the Tao, reflected on the shimmering moonlight, it nurtures the inverted, that fragile flame of my desire, flickering alive, a pulse of longing. Let it flow through every essence, a river of light, unbound, eternal. Let it be the breath that creates the sorrow of your heart, a tender ache, a sacred wound. Let beauty show itself through every force, every pain, every stillness of inaction, every pulse of love, a tapestry woven of starlight and shadow, of yearning and grace. Amen to that. I mean, we're sitting here like dancing in the soup. Like, just for anyone that may not be as energetically sensitive, the two of us are like, I can do laps. I think I can get through this. It's so dense. And this is the emanation of divinity that is acquired instantly through this ancient rhapsody. And so when you experience that, we are crafting the substance right now. And it's like, holy moly, this has become solidified as a substance. It is so dense, it's so reverberating, it's so alive. And that's what this does. Oh,
Beautiful.
did you want me to read another one, or
And
no?
there was one, yes, if you could read one more.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I have a couple more questions.
Did you want anyone, or do you tell me which one?
Anyone you like.
Okay, so the dance of the infinite, butterfly circle, a delicate spiral around the smaller state, the most fine point, a nexus of light, reaching to the heavens, piercing the stars and entering the roots, the seat of life, deep, eternal. That life, so precious, can only be stolen by your absence. Your action and inaction form the pain, that sharp blade that breaks the heart. Yet in its breaking, it returns to the sympathy, to sorrow, a tender reminder of the beauty held within nature, a mirror of soul, fragile, fleeting. Let the beauty show you, you are fragile, you are but mortal, but are you anything other than infinite? Amen to that.
Thank you.
Wow. I forgot how powerful that was.
It was infinite.
Right. I mean, when you craft, like, for example, when you're crafting magic like this, it is an instant stream. So, you know, something of that proportion took me 1 second. All I did was just repeat what was given to me in the stream. And so, you know, if we're sitting here in the nurturing, gentle touch of the sun as it raises the vibration through your skin as you are shimmering, as the light that is known as the pure star essence of the phoenix, as it raises and opens its wings, as it opens itself to the greater sense of self, you find your profound sorrow, your humanness is in that pool of sorrow that looks back at you, that reflection of oneness that comes within you as a whole person, place, thing. You are nothing but desired states of love that emanate through the crystal of your own yearning. Amen to that.
God, I miss you.
Just in case everyone's like,
No,
that just happened right now. So you can listen to that and enjoy that one, because that's just the stream of the now moment.
it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I feel like sort of like we're up here floating, you and I, and now I'm bringing us down to a question. But we are on a podcast, and we have to ask some questions.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, so we've been talking all this time about internal alchemy. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So there's no need for me to ask you what is internal alchemy, because that's what
Yeah. I
we've been
mean,
discussing.
you start putting the nuts and bolts together. So, like anything, if you look at a periodic table, you can go, there's elements. Great. Well, those reside within the body. Your ability to craft that from lead to gold is not just a metaphor. You will actually alchemize a state that is substantive, that is permanent, that is tangible through the infrastructure of the energetic potential. But it's a process, and you go on that path, and it will continue to solidify, and it will return to you as another learned experience, and the experience is what validates your truth. That's how it works. Amen to that.
So I'm not sure if we discussed this, but, or even if I'm saying it properly, but Shen Gong spirit protection. What is Shen Gong spirit protection?
So Shen Gong is basically spirit and power. So when you
So Shen is spirit?
Shen is spirit, and it's your actual power that you are emanating as your eternal immortal self. So it's actualized in this space. So, you know, what is the the most valuable commodity in this state, in what we refer to the material, is your attention. That's it. That's the entry and exit of all things. And so once you take your attention met with intention, your Shazam moment is when your spirit is actualized in this state. So now you're able to craft. I mean, for everyone that knows Gail, she's so humble. It's like she's just sort of like a matter of fact, but she does that at will without even attempting to go through some alchemical process. It's just there, it's going on. And this is the part where not all of us will have that same experience. And that's why there should be a method that comes with helping people understand themselves. And so there's nothing more powerful than being able to craft it. It's like I put down these two elements, I add an incantation. This evokes the power of these elements. And as I'm holding these elements in my hand, and I welcome the spirit and energy of gold, the spirit and energy of the infinite rose, you get a charge through your whole body that is actualized within the grid. And that then turns into an alchemical process. And through that, you start crafting this system in the body that can hold the charge. And then you have Imperium, Dominion, Maestro over your 50 trillion cells that looks back at you in the mirror, and you look at it as the flesh and blood that is your identity, and you have Maestro over that. You can then craft that 0.07 millivolts of energy potential, and it's actualized in the now moment. And you know, that's part of the deeper gateway for you with the projects you have, is that mastery of that, because the more you can harness that substance, your state, your ability to just apply yourself, the substance then basically is like a formed sort of like extension of you that some may refer to as plasma, and it becomes dense, so dense that it will move objects at will with this. And you know, again, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've had a hard time understanding that, how I'm not sure what it is that's going on with my body when I'm rotating a piece of paper under a glass. The only thing that I can see or feel, I feel like something's coming out of my hands or body.
Out
That's,
of here,
yeah, but it
the
feels
stream, it comes from the byway, and it
right.
comes into here, it comes out your eyes, and what we call the points of connection, Lao Gong points, hands and feet. And then, of course, once you understand full body arousal, that's just part of who you are. You're just now conditioning yourself to a system that is no different than anything else you're doing. You do it naturally. What you're attempting to compartmentalize something that needs not to be compartmentalized. You are whole. So what you do naturally to do all the incredible things that are in the category of miracles through your shaman practices is the same thing you need to apply here. And so when you get a little bit more dense, like when you're bending spoons and forks and things of that nature, there's a sink point. You know what this is. And when you sink it, it's like there's a laser beam that comes out of your body, and it just envelops that point, and it melts like butter.
Yes.
And
I
there's
find
no difference with that.
with this that I'm seeing it twirling before it's twirling. So it's already happening,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just have to be present.
Right.
That's one feeling I'm getting. And the other is feeling like some kind of a field or whatever it is. I can feel something coming out that, like, say, when I first go up to it, I just feel my hand feels regular.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
my hand starts to feel like I could, if I were to push them close together, I can keep going like this and feeling a force that
Right.
I wouldn't have felt like 10 minutes earlier where I was just
Right. So,
walking
you
around.
know, like this, for all intensive purposes, you are doing it right now. Just as you put your hands up, I put my hands up,
Hmm.
and, you know, and then I start just palpating between your hands and my hands. And what you're doing it now, we're doing it now, we are now. And that's that density. And as I move a little closer, it gets even stronger.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
We're not making this up,
Yeah,
listeners.
yeah. And that is the permanence. That is the truth. That is the eternal self. And that substance is what you concentrate and harness with your attention intention. And so all of that stuff is what's going on. You're actualizing it. So if you want to move larger objects, you just need to codify it. You have to concentrate it. And that may take a little thought. That doesn't necessarily have to be, because you can speak it because you're so right with this state that you instantly actualize it. All you need to do with your intention is say, give me some more juice, and it'll start to get thicker. And all of
Well,
a sudden, and I think the key for you, if you want to really start moving larger objects, is harnessing it in the lower dantian. And then you can push it out at will through the breath. That's how we do it within alchemy. So you hold it in there, and it's like this big washing machine that works independent of you. So when you start to, it's like building, you build the dantian, which is the energy elixir field. And when you build the lower dantian, it becomes literally like this cast iron clad, like receiving like state that you can stick things into, and like a washing machine, it starts turning independently. And so all of a sudden you're like, I didn't think about that. And it's like churning the energy, and you're like, holy crap. But I wasn't even processed, because you've already turned it on. And then when you start sealing it deeper and deeper into the container, you can then, with your attention intention, which you're doing now anyway, is push that juice out more and make it more thick, more tangible. And then it will move anything you want.
one of my breath questions for you, when I was asking what you had talked about breath earlier, was I was asking about breath and its teaching, and explaining if there was an exercise that you might recommend in breathing. And I didn't know if there was something that you might want to share that the listeners
Yeah.
might be able to practice with
Yeah. Oh,
breathing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when we get to the basic consensus within alchemy, especially for Taoism, the ultimate is realizing that that symbiotic dance between yin and yang from the one stream is the breath in and the breath out. And when you actualize the primordial mother, it's the pause, right? So between the breath in and the breath out is the unified state of wholeness. That's where your magnetism comes in. So when you take that breath in, you hold it, you codify it, it becomes dense, and then you exhale it, and it literally forms like a pizza dough. And so when the cycle of time would be inhale for 9, hold for 9, exhale for 9. And this is the amber effect that we're talking about. So what most people do is inhale for 9. What are you talking about? That's like an eternity. And you start to realize that the bellows effect is you're drawing in, you're holding the energy. This actualizes the spirit. You hold it for a 9 count, and then you exhale. And what happens is you start to feel this substance building in the body. And you're like, holy, whoa, where is this coming from? You can do that right now, and you start to feel your hands getting denser. You're feeling the energy in the body itself, because you're capturing that and you're playing with that dough. And so the pause is the most critical component.
I'm learning something right this very second, because I've always thought about the breath being the least thing that our body can go without the shortest amount of time. We can go for a while without food, we can go for a while without water, but we cannot go very long without air or breathing, and then we're dead. So if we're in a situation and we can't breathe after a certain amount of minutes, if we cannot have air, we will go. Then I've thought about breath when we die, because I've been under the suspicion that possibly I've not been with any person on the second of their death. The only persons that I've held in their seconds of their death has been my dogs and a goat that was in Mongolia when they were killing the goat. So I held the goat in my lap while they uh, uh, cut open and stopped the heart, and the goat died very peacefully. Not goat, I'm sorry, it was a sheep. And in both those incidences with the sheep and the dog, where they're in my lap, I visually am seeing when the last breath comes out, like the soul of the dog went out on that breath and looked like a young dog running around. On the sheep, it was like it didn't even know that it had been killed. It was such a beautiful, humane death. And on its breath, it felt like physically on my body, like that's when the soul really left in that breath. Whether this is true or not, I have no idea, but you're discussing of this power of the breath in building substance and creating a stronger self is then making me think of that the more we create that, the more powerful we'll be upon death when we're leaving on that breath, if that's exactly what we are doing, is the soul or the spirit or consciousness leaving in the breath. What do you think of those ideas?
Oh yeah, they're more than ideas. You're just validating things that I teach within alchemy. So what happens is, like, just doing that exercise right now. If you just inhale, exhale, just do that. If you notice the energy, right? If you go, notice the energy in your body. What do you notice the most?
Kind of
Right, right.
tingly.
You're
Yeah.
you're because this is what we call the amber effect. You are now attached to the field, and you're attached to the body. And when you breathe in and out, just like the amber of a cigarette glows brighter, you're now attached to everything. So now through the respiration, you are playing and moving that energy however you choose to. Does that make sense? And so when you talk about breathing, the longest I've ever held my breath is 18 minutes.
No.
And that's a system that we train in, because you breathe first. It starts with simplicity of breathing from respiration, then you start breathing from the bones, then you start breathing from the muscle, then you start breathing from the energy field, then you start breathing from the spirit, then you start breathing from consciousness, and all bets are off. And so I get a specific cultivational practice for a lot of my students where they're cultivating circles of energy, and you go in a clockwise and counterclockwise phase. And through that phase, they have to count to 81 while moving without breathing. And it builds on itself where there's a point of no return where you got beyond the fear of loss of breath, and you breathe from the spirit and then the consciousness, and then as one. It's a really powerful, magical process.
Wow. I
Yeah.
can't I can't imagine. I would think that my body would automatically interfere with and say, "Oh no, no, you have to breathe now. You can't keep doing that. That's
And
not
that's
right."
right. And that's part of your immortality. It's absolutely in play. But
18
there's
minutes you didn't
18,
breathe with your
18
nose and
minutes,
mouth,
nothing.
but you were
And
breathing
I'm
with
moving.
your
I'm
other
breathing through
through
consciousness. I'm no
consciousness.
longer breathing in the respiration of the body, which activates the immortality.
They
Yeah.
could use you for some of those underwater scenes in some of these crazy movies.
Well, there are certain types of, like, I've had some students make it up to in the 20s and 30-minute mark. Not
Wow.
I've never really had that much attention or cared that much about it. I can harness everything that's necessary within that space,
Mhm.
but you don't realize your limitation. When I start getting people to breathe in for 30 seconds and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, inhale for 36 seconds and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Oh,
Uh,
it becomes indefinite. And the more you surrender to it, the more you fall back into it. You're like, "Holy crap, I can just keep inhaling. How is that possible? How can I just keep inhaling?" Because this is not limited by the body. And
right.
people need to it's a process. It's an alchemical process, and everyone can access it if you have the right method. This method that works for Taoists is what works for us. There are a million different ways to get up the mountain, but it's very effective. Put it that way.
Thank you. That gives us a full answer for our breathing questions. Uh, I have, let's see, we're at an hour now, but I have a couple more questions
Yeah,
left, so
yeah,
I think we can go with it.
yeah.
Uh, can you tell us about what seamless unity means?
Right. Seamless unity in the sense of self, you're all things and nothing at the same time. So
Oh,
seamless unity is when you, so when we're evoking like just this experience that we had where what I referred to as the amber effect within an alchemical process, where you're attached to everything. And so your breath is now alchemizing the body and you feel it like this bellows. As you breathe in and breathe out, it's starting to respirate the energy within the body and it's coming in and out. As I move my hands, you're feeling it through your whole body. Anyone that's actually has any sensory perception will start to feel that. You are what we call walking past and going past the point of no return, where you detach and attach as everything, meaning that you are now, beyond the future or the past or the present. But this is the animation. You have actualized your animation as self, and you're everything and nothing. So wherever you look, perfection exists. You cannot fight it. Your seamless selflessness and servitude is the very spark of your creation. And it no longer is necessary for thought. And anything that is even thought about in the construct of such, whether you're in your personality or you're as all things, it all ends up the same way. But it's an alchemical process. Just like when I said the Dantian works independently of your conscious mind, the same thing goes when you return as all things. There's a almost like a cooling off period when you're detached, where you almost feel emotionless and demotivated to do anything. It's just part of the reset process to return to wholeness. And once you attach again, everything is animated, everything is beauty, everything is perfection, everything is alive, and you can't fight it. Your default is servitude and selflessness. Wherever you look, you are in love, and that is part of the effect. And so that alchemical process, it's like, how do we know this? People experience between you and I when we walk in a room, there is a procession of energy potential that comes from before we even enter. And then furthermore, you can experience this when you go to people's events, whether you're going to see a guru or someone that has spent their life emanating this state. They are you it's like the reputation precedes you, the resonance precedes you, and you're just like, I don't know what's going on, I'm just here and I'm experiencing this thing, and it doesn't require words. I am just absolutely surrendered to the gratitude, the humility, the love, the wholeness, the completeness that comes with this moment, and you just feel unconditional.
I, you know, I went to in my 30s, I was traveling in a I was going to cooking school in Hong Kong because I had a catering business then. And I ended up in a temple in I think it was in Guilin or Guangzhou, I can't remember, in China. And the master came out of the temple and for whatever reason wanted to come up to me in this, little group that we were in and hold my hand, speak to me in Chinese, and then walk away. And I experienced something I'd read about but never had, which was transmission without uh, English or any kind of the state, whatever that particular monk master was in. He just opened my heart just by looking at me for 2 or 3 minutes, saying a few words, and walking on, and a deep connection was made. I returned back to that same temple 8 days later, not knowing whether I could run into him again. And he appears on the street saying, I know you were coming. But my friend translated because she was Chinese and could tell me what he said in Mandarin. And he healed over the heart that he'd opened when he first saw me a week ago. And what he said, a few things blessing me, and that was it. And I felt completely like I was walking around for a week like a wide opened, vulnerable channel of I'm like, and it was, and I've read about things like that, but and you can talk about it, but when you experience transmission, or you realize then it's very real that a person of such a developed spiritual being could be in your presence and alter the space that you're in to place you into a higher, more open space than you were in before you were in their presence. And I know that to be very real. And you know, and I'm grateful for all those different, and for whatever reason, when if I think about them, most of them have been Asian experiences that I've had, where it was I met some Buddhist or some monk somewhere and something magical happened in those few minutes and then they were gone. But it lasted. It wasn't just that moment or that, you know, they did something powerful. So let's see, I'm getting down to, if you wanted to say anything about the three masters, the three teachers that have been guiding you for so long, if there was anything you wanted to share about them, because the images in your book are really beautiful, and I thought there might be something you'd like to speak about them to our listeners.
Yeah, yeah. The three pure ones have been my teachers for decades, and they basically are the dialogue to the monologue of the mother. When she exhales, you'll find through the book there's a blank page and then three diamonds where she has formed that creation, and they are the keepers of the creation of the cosmos. And everything starts with a birth and a completion and then a rebirth. So creation, completion, and rebirth is the trilogy that is exhibited through everything that you experience in this reality. And you'll find it in everything. There's just, you're never amiss for it. You will find it no matter where you look. And so supreme purity is the keeper of the light. Jade purity is the keeper of the information, and highest purity is the keeper of the magic, the energy, the culmination of the two. And so supreme purity is the creator, jade purity is the completer, and then highest purity is the rebirth of everything as whole. And so you wherever you find their teaching, it's so deep, it's so intimate, and it emanates through there's iteration of self, and you start to find how nurturing that is, and then you have your own intimate relationship with them individually and collectively. It's like the Shazam moment.
Mm-hmm.
From the 1 to the 2 to the 3 creates the 9,000 things. Furthermore, that's something that would be reflected upon, Lao Tzu's teachings within the Tao Te Ching. We start to get deeper into understanding that you are everything. And so you can be whole or separated, you're still whole. The paradox. Mm-hmm. And that's where people get a little misguided or a little distracted from their own true self, because it becomes a contorted sort of like fringe benefits of your personality, as if that's not an external state that you're attempting to control something that is eternal, which will never happen. It's like once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't see what you've already seen. That's the beautiful part about what we're experiencing in this lifetime, is you keep being reminded, and then that's it. And then of course your potency, Gail specifically, it just becomes higher and higher and higher. The resonance just continues to it just feeds into everything. It feeds everything and then returns back and then feeds it again. It's just that beautiful poetic flow. Amen to that. No.
Yes, it's almost pulsating on its own. Okay, so I'm going to bring us back into this material world, and I'm going to ask if you could tell our listeners about how they can purchase your book, or where, and whether it will be in hardcover or not, what the plan is in a printed version. And also, I believe that anyone that purchases this book will see that it is also written in Chinese as well as English. And that's also a wonderful thing. So I was just wondering if you could tell our listeners about that, about your book, how to find it, and then if you have any more last words of wisdom.
Well, I mean, people can pick it up from my website, immortalitydaoistrights.com. Furthermore, you'll be able to find copies of the future. Right now, it doesn't make monetary sense to publish these at the price tag that I've found them at. I need to do some negotiating to get it to a price point that would be comfortable. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
this is something that people need to think about. But most people, if anyone reads it, they feel an embodiment and they're gravitating to this state, and they are finding themselves through this experience.
Well,
So
and many people want ebooks. Is that what we would call that? An ebook,
yeah, it's
right?
an ebook. I will tell people it cannot be printed. It's a digital copy. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where the but you will, like everything, every chapter, every poem is an experience. You can treat it like your own intimate experience. You can turn it into a meditation. You can turn it into an incantation. It all derives this source of energy, and it starts to come up through the body. And so you'll be like, oh man, this is way more than what I expected. And as for the Cantonese that it's transcribed into, is very much being in true form to the nature of where the origins of everything that my heart desires and has blossomed from and is surrendered to, which is the culture that I have lived in for thousands of years, if not millions. This is very much part of the tradition, is to remember exactly where you came from. The good old fashioned Grandma Yenta said, don't forget where you came from.
I'm putting it together. Where
And
did
so
I come from?
yeah, so with the red also is not symbolic, but it's actually the Tao. It's the mother. And so that color comes through and you'll feel it. You'll be like, I don't know. I don't even know. I used to think it was just the menu at the Chinese restaurant, but now I'm starting to think it has a whole new different definition, because that red will show itself. It's like red shift, blue shift, right? Within a dielectric sort of like expression within those energies. If you're looking at the energy centers between, the throat chakra and the root chakra, is where everything happens. And so those two energies are very, very powerful. So the red is really the first emanation of the human being within the material state from the earth, which some people will call a transpersonal point. We refer to it as a Dantian. That it basically evokes the human creation. And so that draws from the spectrum, the light spectrum of the intimate relationship between the sun and the earth, forms the rainbow. And then we have beauty, perfection manifest right there within the body.
Yes, and I noticed there's a lot of drawings around the poems of dragons. And I was wondering if you could just give us a little info about I think they're dragons, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah. The celestial form of the dragon is like the keeper and creator. It's like a level of embodiment that comes with the primordial mother, and that is a merging of this dragon into the mortal field. And so the dragon is not symbolic, but it is an emanation of this primordial self, and you'll feel it. And they're always in service, and they always come in, normally a tribe of 9, and the numbers will show itself through those different iterations of the energies from one point to another. So
they don't look scary. They look powerful,
yeah,
but not
yeah.
frightening.
No, 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 no. And I
No.
mean, that's the beautiful part about that celestial expression.
Hmm.
It shows you, really, you look at it and you go, I feel that. That's within me. Oh, that is me. Oh, I got the message.
That's wonderful. So now we're coming to our close, and I just want to see if there's anything else you want to say, anything about your podcast, or anything about anything coming up, or you give classes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You just froze there for a minute. Your juice is too strong, Gail.
No, no, we're back.
Oh, we're back. Yeah. So,
So,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely. Anyone, interested in a more deep dive, I've just on that when I finished that book, I finished 4 other books, and so that happened in the same stream, which was a couple of days. I finished the whole thing. I'm just going to just allocate some diagrams and illustrations, and then publish those. And then there'll be further trainings that come up if people are looking for more insight. I offer a bunch of different things that give you insight, whether it's past life readings, or maybe they want to go into interactions with Latsu. I give an intimate setting where people can find that if they want that, and it's all just part and parcel of a bigger thing. Or if you're looking for alchemical training, when you get on the website, just put in a request, and we can further discover where it is you're at in your own self-realization.
Okay, now all of that will be on our description for our listeners, but could you just tell them your website just in case there's listeners who are
Yeah,
sitting at home in their kitchen and they're listening to it on Apple Podcast or somewhere and they want to jot
yeah,
it down?
yeah, absolutely. Immortaldaoistrights.com. And so you can check that one out.
Okay, wonderful. So I just want to say thank you so much for being back on a Small Medium at Large podcast. We just love having you, and you've brightened my day, and you've just energized me for the rest of the things I need to do. And I really look forward to our next visit together and being with your beautiful wife and beautiful children. And I hope it'll be here in California. I know we'll be in Nevada to see you, but would love for you to come out and visit us as well.
I would love that. I have so much love for you. It's boundless, and you warm my heart, and I melt when I'm in your presence, because that's who you really are. So I'm just very grateful for you, my dear friend.
Well, thank you. I'm very grateful for your very, very kind, loving words. Thank you, son. And I want to thank all you listeners for joining us here today in a very heartfelt interview today. And I want to thank my son Richard for producing the show. And I want to thank my daughter Nancy for posting us on all the regular sites, the YouTube, the Apple, Spotify, Google, and all other podcast social media sites. And I want to thank you listeners for liking, subscribing, commenting, and becoming friends. So thank you again. And remember, share your stories because stories can heal. Bye.